I think the biggest misconception people have today is the fact that they think it's something they have to do it all at one time. Getting the quick wins starts showing success to your executives, and they like seeing that, and that will help get you the momentum you need for the bigger tasks that are further down the road. It's about, ping power pipe in a data center anymore. It really is about how do you leverage the environment that's out there to make your business more valuable. Two parts of it. You need to make sure your data is relevant.
Sure.
Okay, so we go through processes with them on to clean up the data. A lot of times it isn't necessarily about archiving it, but is it still relevant data for your environment?
Welcome to the first episode of OnPointAlways, a podcast where we explore how enterprise technologies are evolving in the real world. Digital transformation, a term that means different depending on where you sit in enterprise, especially when your foundation is built on complex SAP environment. Today, we'll explore what digital transformation really looks like, what it is not, and where it's all headed. To help us unpack all of this, I'm joined here today by Anthony Pedano, a leader with deep experience in managing SAP infrastructure at scale. Anthony has spent 30 years leading large-scale SAP infrastructure and application development teams in complex SAP enterprise environments. Anthony is Executive Director at Kyndryl, and he is part of Application and AI Services Organization. He now works with the organizations to modernize and evolve their environments for the future. Anthony, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
I'm Samir Gandhi. I'm your host, and let's get to it. So from your perspective, how has the digital transformation, the concept, the approach has changed in last 5 to 10 years?
So it's interesting the way things have evolved with the digital transformation. Years ago, customers looked at it as one-off type events that were occurring. But with the advent of AI into everything that's going on, customers are really looking at ways to leverage and change their environments to start taking advantage of the AI infrastructure that's being deployed out there today.
Okay. You've seen SAP and mainframe systems up close. And you've worked with various customers that have both, maybe one or the other. What are the common misconceptions that you have seen when it comes to digital transformation? Do they understand the concept of digital transformation very well?
I think the biggest misconception people have today is the fact that they think it's something they have to do it all at one time. With the way technology is today, you really can start looking at your environment and taking it, one piece at a time. You don't have to eat the whale all in one sitting. You can take it one bite at a time and go through a process and start looking at low-hanging fruit within your environment of either applications that can be sunsetted or, easy to transform, and start moving towards that digital transformation to bring you forward in the environment.
So create like a 5 to 10 year roadmap and then take a small chunk at a time.
Correct.
And
that is correct.
That.
Yeah, and now we would tell customers 5 years is probably a long time.
Sure.
But typically you're looking at a 3-year roadmap.
Okay.
You got to get the momentum in the company. It's going to cost you a little bit, so you got to make sure you have the budgets aligned. Getting the quick wins starts showing success to your executives, and they like seeing that, and that will help get you the momentum you need for the bigger tasks that are further down the road.
Sure, and you probably need to get your force or employees excited about digital transformation. That way they can adopt it much better.
Yep.
Now, you in your all these 30 years, you worked with various leaders, and in last several years, you worked with infrastructure leaders. Have you seen them being a little bit more strategic when it comes to digital transformation? Are they thinking strategically, or it's more tactical?
Yeah, it definitely is moving to much more of a strategic environment. With the advent of IoT and agentic AI, the customers have to look at, the clients have to look at their infrastructure and how they're going to support that, and it's strategic for them to grow and leverage all this new technology that's out there. It's not just about, ping power pipe in a data center anymore. It really is about how do you leverage the environment that's out there to make your business more valuable.
So coming back to the point I was making in the beginning, Lot of misconception exists. Some organizations think by doing X would get them to that digital transformation paradigm, if you will. What do you think organizations are doing that they are actually undertaking digital transformation? Can you give some examples?
There's usually right now we were seeing a compelling event that would be occurring at the client. In a recent example for myself, Kyndryl was a spin-off from IBM, and as part of that, with the rules and regulations, we had 2 years to divest ourselves out of the IBM infrastructure.
The spin-off was 3 years ago, wasn't it?
It was 3.5 years ago now, correct? Yes.
Okay.
So we had 2 years to completely remove ourselves from the IBM infrastructure. If not, we would have to set up a commercial relationship as part of the process of the legal reasons why you have to make sure that happens. And so as part of that, Kyndryl need to relook at everything that they had in there and transform that into modern day stuff. So IBM was still running, and still probably today still runs, a lot of legacy Lotus Notes types databases and stuff, because they owned it and they built everything on that. Well, Kyndryl didn't want to take that legacy over with us.
Okay.
Their SAP environment, IBM was running that within their own standalone environment. Kyndryl had to look at how do we bring that up into a HANA environment, and is now also part of the transformation into a RISE environment too. So we had to look at how do we modernize all this stuff. What do we want to sunset as part of that? What was going to be our custom database of choice and stuff, and how do we handle that? So they took over 14,000 applications.
Oh, wow.
I'm sorry, 1,400 applications, and reworked them into this environment by maximizing their SAP licenses, also looking at other SaaS products that made sense for them to be running in the environment, but really transformed it into a modern environment that we have today for Kyndryl.
And it's not just lift and shift, right? There's more to it. I'm sure there are other services that go with it. Backup, for example, network services, they would have to be modernized or re-looked at.
That is correct. So we had to bring in all new VPN type services for our access. This was also right as COVID was happening.
Sure.
So we had to transform our environment to handle all the remote workers.
Wow.
Because we were coming out of an environment, Kyndryl didn't invest a lot in office space.
Right.
The people were working from home, so why would they make that real estate investment? So a lot of that had to be taken into consideration as we were deploying that.
In fact, COVID, a lot of companies either took advantage of COVID to transform completely, become a complete different company, or they just struggled. So we've seen examples of both, actually. So glad to see that Kyndryl was able to make that shift and transform into a new company that it is, focusing on enterprise software and other technologies.
Yeah, and speaking of it now from Kyndryl's client sides that we work with, we're seeing the digital transformation in two different areas, in two different ways right now. SAP has the event going on with people trying to move to SAP RISE.
Okay.
And the mainframe type data, people, in order to take advantage of the agentic AI type stuff, have to really start looking at their applications that they're running on the mainframe and modernizing them, whether that's still on the mainframe or are they going to move them into a hyperscaler, and how do they want to take advantage of the newer technologies out there to make and take advantage of the business competitive edge that they get that way. So there is compelling events out there today that are causing clients to look at not just upgrading their SAP system, but truly bringing it into the 21st century with the tools and stuff that they have.
That's how it should be. So, Anthony, in your experience, what makes this digital transformation particularly challenging for organizations that have deep legacy SAP systems?
So both for legacy SAP and mainframe systems, the challenge always is the human side of what's going on. People hear about modernization, they think, what does that do for my job?
Sure.
One of the things we have to make sure we reassure the client and the people is they're not going to lose their jobs.
Sure.
It really is about taking their jobs and making it easier, better, more strategic within the environment so they can provide more valuable information, and reassuring them that this is not about a change to, we're not robotizing everything.
Right.
We're looking at it as ways to give you information to make your job easier and more valuable and strategic in the organization.
kind of making it frictionless for their day-to-day activities
Correct.
and making
Yes.
it better,
Yes.
not just digitizing it. Now, how do you advise approaching digitization, digital transformation without disrupting critical business processes? Because obviously one can expect some disruption, but is there any advice you have for the audience that you see?
So in order to avoid disruption within the environment, it's like anything else that you're transforming and changing. You want to make sure that you go through good test protocols and procedures and what's going on. You need to make sure that you're doing the right value to the customer and the client. So really looking at, what do you want to get out of this at the end, not what is it doing for you today.
Sure.
Reevaluating, is there anything that it's not doing that you want today? So it really is just looking at the processes and looking at strategically how you're going to improve that to give them the information that they want.
These use cases, when they do modernization, involves some sort of a lift and shift of database, or sometimes they choose to re-platform. In your opinion, is there any right balance between lift and shift from on-prem to cloud versus completely re-platform?
Well, the value is really on how the company wants to approach it and look at it.
Okay.
There is no one size fits all, one right way fits all for everyone. What we're seeing mostly what's happening today is it really is a hybrid environment strategically across multiple things, where they're leveraging data lakes for a lot of the information. The cost of saving data has come down a lot.
Sure.
So the ability to keep a lot of data out there is a lot cheaper, but you still got to be able to access all of that.
Right.
And that's going to lead you into more of a data lake type environment. And that could be both within the mainframe environment or within the SAP environment or within the hyperscale environment. And typically it's a little bit in all those environments. So looking at the access to your data is what's going to be important for you. And then you can build the systems around it that says, okay, what do I want in each of those? How do I want my business processes within SAP? If you're running a lot of legacy mainframe environment, what of those should be just modernized on the mainframe? Because there are some advantages with, the mainframe as far as processing power that
Sure.
you're not going to necessarily get in the hyperscaler. But, when you're looking at IoT and those things, a lot of that, because of the way the hyperscalers have fringe ways of accessing that data, gives you ability to bring that data in a lot quicker working with the hyperscaler environment.
Now, speaking of data, one of our challenges that we've seen is data quality. Bringing data across, when you're replatforming especially, lift and shift doesn't make too much a challenge. But when you're replatforming, have you seen a lot of challenges? And we've seen customers changing direction as far as, I'm switching gears a little bit, governance gets added more. They realize that there needs to be more governance. Yeah. Have you seen such scenarios?
We have, and especially in today's world with cybersecurity and everything, the way data is accessed. So you got two parts of it. You need to make sure your data is relevant.
Sure.
Okay, so we go through processes with them on to clean up the data. A lot of times it isn't necessarily about archiving it, but is it still relevant data for your environment? When we came out of IBM into Kyndryl, we had to look at that a lot because we had to first of all separate our data out of it. And was that data, even though IBM didn't need it anymore, did Kyndryl still really need it?
True.
So how do you make sure you keep your data relevant? And that also gets into quality control about it. And then accessing the data and security around it is a big thing that everyone's worried about, especially as you start moving it out into hyperscalers and environments where, it's perceived that more people have access to it.
Right.
Well, that's, you got to show them that that's not really the case. And, there's a lot of good things that are going on in that area. So quality of data and access to data are the two things that we focus on. And we have, there's a lot of tools out there that will help the clients improve in that area.
Traditionally, I've seen customers, speaking of data, traditionally they take advantage of the situation and they clean up. And as you said rightly, keep only relevant data and archive data off or delete what's not needed. But I heard that there are additional ways using data lakes. Have you seen customers getting into that data lake situation?
We do, because realize with AI, the more data you have, the more the way it can, right, you can train the models, and it brings more relevant information into your decision making. So the more you have that historical data, the more better the information is going to be. So it really is a transformation of the data from being, archiving meant you were saving it because you still needed it for something.
Right.
Now you don't archive it. Now you put it in, low cost storage in a data lake or something area so that you can still access, quantify it, and bring that information in. We still do recommend clients clean up their data and get rid of things that are irrelevant or, it's not good quality data. There's no sense of keeping that.
Sure. It could cause confusion down the line. Are there, or have you seen paths where modernization path has still maintained value of legacy system? I think you were just alluding to that just some time ago, or saying about value of mainframe. Can you elaborate on that value that besides the processing power mainframe offers, or keeping the old processes during the digital transformation?
Well, I mean, bringing an application into newer technology doesn't necessarily mean that you're rewriting the whole application.
Sure.
If there's the old saying, if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Right.
But you still need to be able to maintain it. Right. So, if you're running old releases of COBOL or Java, or, you're on a very old IBM mainframe hardware, you do need to keep it maintainable. And that's the biggest challenges most companies are having, especially in the mainframe world, is those legacy type technology and knowledge. People 30 years into business, people are getting old, and those older people are, accessible, and the younger people are learning the newer stuff.
Sure.
So, it really is about, if, you need to modernize it for maintainability. That's different than doing a full rewrite and changing the entire application and business process.
Makes sense. So you speaking of people earlier, I have one interesting example to share. We were demonstrating a product from SAP, and we demonstrated an EAM product to them, and one of the component was to repair a pump. And SAP has now integrated it with really cool technology, PLM, and it actually shows you how a technician, if they are not experienced enough, could come in. They don't need to bring a work manual with them. They can actually use the system and actually look at the various parts of the pump and figure out what needs to be changed, how it needs to be changed, and order it from there. Very cool technology, and I could see making life easier for the technician. I think I see a lot of those examples in digital transformation. Have you seen something?
Well, we've seen that, and actually, I'm starting to see that in real life now today too.
Yeah.
What's very interesting, we talk to people about how does AI change your life at work or your life at home. In the last 10 years, people have started using YouTube and TikTok as a way to find out how to cook a turkey. Before you have to go into McCall's data book or Betty Crocker data book and read the instructions and try to figure out what they meant by them.
Right.
Well, nowadays, younger people bring that up on a YouTube video and look and see how to cook the turkey. Well, you're starting to see commercials that actually advertise saying, put the ingredients out on the table.
True.
And we'll go and give you a recipe or two to say, how do you use those ingredients? How that translates into the work environment, similar to what you just talked about, is you're fixing something. The technician doesn't have to go find a manual for that anymore.
Right.
Or, someone in the work environment in the HR area doesn't have to go find a course that person's looking for. They just kind of talk about it or show it, and AI goes and finds and gives them suggestions. They're not going to make the choice for you, but they're going to give you suggestions on how to use that information so you don't have to type in the Google search anymore.
That would be the real digital transformation. Wonderful. So let's go back to Kyndryl journey. You mentioned of Kyndryl successfully taking on digital transformation exercise when it was divested out of IBM. Were there any pivotal decisions that you remember of or think of, or success factors that helped the journey?
There was a couple of really critical decisions they made. One is, and you have to get all the way up to the top, your chairman and CEO's agreement on this is, you were not going to scope creep the thing. When you made a decision that it was SAP, and then you had to prove to me why SAP couldn't do it, or it was this mainframe application, or once you made the selection of what were going to be your core technologies, then someone had to say, well, why won't this work for you?
Sure.
And it takes strong executive leadership to say, you really need to prove to me that it's not going to work for you. When they were looking at setting those 1,400 applications out of IBM, it wasn't like they got rid of the business stuff that they were doing or the business processes. They really looked at how they incorporate what's going on. One of the things I talk about a lot with customers is look at your current environment, and are you getting the maximum value out of your licenses? Especially in the SAP environment, there's a lot of things that are going on in that environment that you can sit there and say, do I really need to go get another product for that? Usually I tell people, make the decision about a new SaaS product or custom built product because it's the crown jewels of your business. It's something that's going to give you a competitive edge. But the reality is within your HR world, within a lot of your financing world, there's nothing core about that gives you the competitive edge.
Right.
It's the business processes and how you use it. So maximize your licenses on what you already have today.
And SAP ecosystem has evolved. So today, 5 years ago, what the licenses you purchase from different vendors, they may come from one vendor. And
Correct.
now this is a good opportunity for you to consolidate and renegotiate, perhaps.
Correct.
Have you seen any transformation effort that didn't meet the expectation or didn't come to the threshold that was set? Have you seen anything like that?
We have, and it usually revolves around two things. One, they didn't really understand and estimate the amount of time it was going to take to do it. So you get, like I said, some of these transformations can be 2-3 years to get
Sure.
fully through. You try to explain that to the customer or the client, and they fall short on that expectation because either, and sometimes it's out of their control. Mergers and acquisitions happen halfway through a project that changes the whole scope of it.
Very true.
Some of it's because they don't have the leadership isn't holding firm to we want to stay in these guardrails.
Okay.
The other area is because they just don't invest the time into testing. A lot of people underestimate the importance of doing that critical part of the project.
True.
It really will save you a lot of headaches after you go live, and that's usually when the end users are saying, "Oh, this is all broken. It doesn't work because it's not giving me the quality data that I expected."
It wasn't tested very well.
Yep.
Okay, and they were not involved enough.
Or involved enough, correct. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, we've seen mostly some of the challenges we've seen were around the people, human factor, as you mentioned, or quality of data. The customer underestimated the quality of that data. They were very confident, and turned out it was just not as at par. So we had to spend more time, and it delayed the transformation. So. In the beginning, you mentioned about some emerging technologies, AI. What have you seen of all these emerging technologies that are relevant or more impactful when it comes to digital transformation? There are some obvious examples, but are there any other specific examples you would like to share?
Well, speaking from the world that I'm working in right now, which is much more on the mainframe modernization side, the agentic AIs within the conversion of legacy code to new code is really moving things much faster in that environment.
Okay.
Literally, what would take someone weeks to rewrite, you get something that comes out of those environments now that gives you that first draft of it and makes it then, the next step is humans still need to get involved.
Sure.
And they don't, it gets it 50% there, and as it learns from itself, it gets better and better. But that process of getting that initial change is what's occurring there right now. On the SAP side, as SAP's moved more into the BTP clean core environment, it's giving people really a good chance to relook at their Z codes that they have within that environment,
Sure.
and saying, do I still need it? SAP has done a lot of enhancements and taking that Z code and made it part of the core product now. How do you take advantage of that and reduce your ownership and start moving towards what SAP wants you to do, which is really a clean core environment for your main application?
Make their digital footprint more clean or cleaner.
Yeah, we've seen that. In fact, I remember when this whole S/4HANA journey started, the code modernization, custom code modernization,
effort used to take quite a bit of time. Because the tools were not modern yet, and you had to get in more. Now I think some of these codes, some of the tools are so proficient, you can get up to 90% with those tools, and mostly involves AI in it. So how do you see SAP Rise platform or any other hyperscaler cloud platform? AWS has it, GCP has it, Azure has it, enabling all these transformation? Are they putting in extra effort helping customers to these digital transformation?
Oh, absolutely are. And Kyndryl's working on a lot of partnerships with them. We just announced one with AWS.
Okay.
We're working with all the hyperscalers, and obviously I can't talk about everything that we're doing with them, but they are definitely making the investments because they know that the easier they make these transformations and the more AI they develop around that to give quicker value and return to the client is important for them to go forward. So, and it's up to us as Kyndryl to balance out what really belongs with the hyperscaler and what belongs within your core enterprise, and working with you to balance that transition in there. But yeah, they are definitely making the investments, and you look at a lot of what's going on out there to help clients get a better ROI and TCO in these transformations.
They're making investments in research as well as...
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Now, as we are getting close to our end of our podcast, any advice do you have for the CIOs or IT leadership who are thinking of this journey or on their journey of digital transformation? Any specific advice that you can provide to them?
The advice I would give them is, get that initial assessment evaluation done.
Okay.
Work with whoever your provider is that you have in there, and with your internal teams, because know what you need to do. Okay, get that done. That investment is well worth it. There's a lot of companies that have those type of things, and Kyndryl has one, Zest has one.
Sure.
Work with us to give you that cornerstone that you need to understand what you need to do. A lot of times when we do those and evaluations, assessments up front, we can help you identify the low-hanging fruit to get it started for you.
Very good.
And that definitely will give you a TCO and an ROI on getting it done. I know it seems like, some of these, depending on how intensive you want to get, it seems like, well, why do I want to spend 6 weeks or 3 months doing that? Get that done, because it really will help you be successful through the whole process.
Yeah, it's a good investment early on, and it's compared to the advantages that it provides, a very small investment, but it's definitely going to set you on a right path forward. I think very, very true. Very true. So what excites you about this new tech that you've seen? You've seen AI, some of the newer technology that's coming up in. Is there any factor that excites you? I
mean, what excites me most about it is the rate of change.
Okay.
I go back through my career, and I don't think we've seen this much rate of change on how things were being done since the evolution of the internet.
Oh, wow.
The way the internet started bringing together connectivity of IoT, and on the consumer side of it, there's a lot of things that made us being able to talk to each other and see things much easier. Just look at the news. What used to take weeks for you to find out, you now find out in minutes what's going on around the world. The AI is that next thing that's going to be evolutionary and changing. As the technology keeps evolving, as we come up with the new faster processors and everything that's out there, quantum computing, taking advantage of all that stuff. So you're going to see rapid change into these modernization that's going to be done with a lot of the AI agents helping you through that process to make it quicker for you, and quicker also reduce costs by doing it that way.
Very true. Change is always good, but change is, somebody says change is the only constant. I think if you manage it very well, it will benefit you. So a company like ours, we could help our customers plan this very well to their advantage. If audience would like to follow your work or would like to know more about what's happening, what's the best way to connect with you or know about your work?
I mean, I'm on LinkedIn, so reach out through LinkedIn. Kyndryl puts a lot of stuff out there on LinkedIn, so that would probably be the best way of finding out what we're doing. That's the social media platform that we're using the most right now.
Okay. Do you have any favorite book or article or resource that you would like to share with the
I'm going to show my age here a little bit. So going back 30 years of my career, one of the things that someone taught me very early in my career, because being in the technology side, you tend to focus on learning all about technology all the time, and there are great books out there. I would recommend anything that you can read about data lakes and AI. You absolutely should do that, but realize you're going to be spending just as much time on the people side as you are on the technology side. And I go back to old favorites in that area, and I always reread books like How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie, the 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership by John Maxwell. Very good information about just knowing good ways of relating to people and understanding that the communication part of your business is going to be critical, especially as we move into these newer technologies.
Thank you so much, Anthony. There you go. Thank you so much. Thank you for sharing all that great insight with us. So, folks, that brings us to the end of this episode of On Point Always. A big thank you to Anthony Pedano for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
And sharing thoughtful and practical insights. From rethinking what digital transformation really means to learning how organizations can modernize without their legacy strengths, this conversation was packed with valuable takeaways. So we really appreciate spending time with us, Anthony. If you found this discussion or thoughtful, please consider subscribing, leaving a review, or sharing it with your colleagues. Please keep an eye out for upcoming episodes in the series. This week, I'll be speaking with tech leaders, transformation leaders who are helping organizations rewire how they work, compete, and grow. You don't want to miss any of these in the upcoming weeks. Until then, thanks for listening and stay curious.